So for today, God is saying that Christians and believers in Jesus and the Lord, of course, but in his son Jesus, are going to be taking over the world, basically, slowly but surely. It's obviously going to take time. It took time for us to get where we're at now, so full of evil and corruption. But it's going to take time to turn things around, but it will happen. I don't know everything, because when it comes to like the future, God shows me things, but he only gives me, because I'm only human like everyone else, he only gives me little bits and pieces of things at a time, right? But what he's been saying to me, I've had these messages from him since April, where he's saying that he's going to basically clean up women. So women have, there's been OnlyFans, and like women have put so much attention on hair, makeup, nails, and stuff. And I've heard a few female prophets talk about how, oh, you can have your nails done, your hair done, and still be Christian, blah, 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 all this. Yeah, that's true. I'm not saying that those who focus on their appearance aren't Christian, but there are actual passages in the Bible that talk about that's not how God wants his women. He considers women that spend more time, effort, and energy on their looks and stuff as to be more Jezebel types. His type of women are supposed to be more pure and worry more about their internal than their external, right? So we've seen over the last 10, 15 years or so, longer, but I'm just using that time reference, of where women specifically have really focused on, filtering their photos, touching up body parts, plastic surgery, Botox, spending $100 on a nail set, $100 on eyelashes, things that you all get it, tanning, whatever. We've seen where women have put so much focus and attention on their external and not enough on their internal. And because of that, I'm not going to say it started with women or it started with men. I'm just picking a starting point here because it's a big mess. Because of that, men have started to demean women and treat women as less than, because women are more concerned with competing with other women and making sure that they have the best selfie, that they're on point, they're spending $500 on their outfit, their hair, their nails, their makeup, etc., just to try to keep their man's attention, right? But God is saying that's not how he designed it. God, picture your parents or even your grandparents. Women weren't having to do that type of stuff several years ago, right? Obviously, women have been focusing on their appearance for many, many years. But God is saying that in these last 20 years or so, since social media has taken off, it's caused women to have to put more attention on their outer beauty because of the fear of their man going and looking at pornography sites or checking out other women's profiles and stuff. These things weren't as available 30, 40, 50 years ago, before social media took off and the smartphone and everything. People didn't have access to everyone's photos, personal photos, things like that in their hand. And men have had access to that in these last 20 years or so. And because of that, women have noticed they've had their man leave them for somebody else. And so this goes for both sides too, I guess. I shouldn't just say men. Men and women have had their partner leaving them for somebody else. But God's asking me to focus specifically on women. So women have tried to, focus more on their physical outer appearance to get more attention from men, and also to quote unquote keep their man, their spouse. And I'm just using man as a term because these aren't husbands, obviously, whether these are flings or love interests or boyfriends or husbands, they're their partner. So just man, partner, whatever. They're trying to keep their attention, right? So they've put all this focus on outer attention. And because of that, it's caused men to kind of create this competition with women, where it's she's a 6 and you're an 8, so I'll go with you, or my spouse, my woman, my partner is a 5, so I'm going to go for the 8. I don't know, it's created this competition scale in regards to women, and it's just fueling that, right? And then because of that, it's causing men to feel like they are allowed, or it's just the way it is, to go in and date this one and this one and this one and kind of sow their seeds all around. Again, God did not design men to operate like this, right? So these are just, there's several factors, but these are just some of the ones he's pointing out to me, where these factors have been affecting women and their psyches and men and their psyches, and therefore men and women relationships, right? And if we take it back, if we go with the Bible, with the original Adam and Eve, without getting into like the apple and the fruit of good and evil and things, but just specifically about how God created them, there wasn't this going on, right? Like Adam wasn't like, well, Eve, you look pretty good, but Susie over here, she's looking all right, so I'm gonna go, you know what I mean? And Eve wasn't focused on someone else, you know, things. She wasn't insecure. I mean, she was like naked and stuff. She was not insecure, you know. So he's pointing out to me like the organic, like the original organic model, the blueprint was not like this, you know. And then men are bothered too, because the women are looking like someone else. They don't even look like themselves. They look like cartoon characters because of all the work, all the makeup, all the touch-ups. And it causes them to treat women more for just, you know, their looks than their inside, right? And then women are upset because they can pick this up. They're like, well, men only want me for my looks, and, you know, they're not interested in getting to know me and stuff. But that's because of what, not just that specific woman, but what we have put out over the last 20 years for men to pick up on, right? So like I said, it's just a big mess. But yes, so God is saying, and has been telling me this for months, that he is going to take women back. We're going to dial the clock back like to the 90s, the 80s, 90s. And I just use that as a reference point because that's when I was born and I was young. But where women were still very beautiful, they still did nails, they did hair, you know, whatever. But it was before social media days, so it wasn't this like huge competition that it is now. And just dial it back to more authenticity. More of a natural, organic look, as opposed, and then that way, and what he's also doing at the same time is getting women to work on their inside. So like I put out a word, well, it was a short, I think, the other day, talking about how God is raising his now I can't say the word, apostolic prophetic women. And that basically means where they're able to prophesy and they're apostles of the Lord. And he's raising them up one by one. Now, obviously, not every single woman is going to be prophetic and an apostle for the Lord, okay? But there's going to be a large chunk that will be, and he's going to be tapping them on the shoulder if they haven't already been. Each one is going to get tapped and a rose to do this, to do basically what I'm doing, right? To create channels, social media. So God is taking back social media. He understands that for quite some time now, Satan's been running and controlling social media, having women, like I said, be on these pornography sites, OnlyFans, things like this, where they've been putting a large chunk of their attention and focus on their outer beauty. And so God's like, I'm done with all that. I'm scrapping that out. I'm going back to basics here. I'm going to make women go more natural. So maybe you still will be like doing lashes and stuff, but it's not going to be to the next power like it has been. It's going to be dialed down like it was, say, like in the 90s and 80s. They didn't have this type of stuff. They were wearing makeup, they were painting their nails, but they weren't putting so much of their attention and focus. They were staying at home, taking care of their families. You know, there was, women worked, but not like it is now. Now also, because God's also saying, now also in this time frame in our 2020s, not only are women competing with other women for look wise, like physicalness, but also money wise. Like, oh, she does this, well, I'll go do this and I'll make more money. I'll have more of a power spot, you know, I'll keep my man by being a power woman, you know, whatever. And God's saying he didn't, like, no, he's like, I want my women to be more natural looking, to be in the home where, you know, they can take care of their families, where they're focusing and working on their inside and less on their outside, you know, less going to the gym and more like basically reading the Bible, things like that. Like, still, where obviously you're focusing on your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, your finances, things like that. But it's hard to explain, but where it's like more of coming from more of an internal viewpoint, as opposed to an external viewpoint. There's so much focus on the external viewpoint in our world these days, and that's how it's evil. It's like a rat race to try to have the best vehicle or the best occupation or the best career or the best husband or the best wife, the best looking. And then you somehow have to juggle these like 15 things just to keep your partner. And it's way too much. He never intended it to get like this. Satan has had just a heyday with running social media to get women specifically, men and women, but women specifically, where they have, whether they intentionally did it or not, they've partnered into this, right? And it's added fuel to the mess. So I see lots of women who complain about men and stuff, and I get it. Trust me, I do. However, God's just saying he's not picking on women, but he's saying he's seen how women have focused more in these last 20 years since social media on trying to make money and get partners and keep their partners through their physicalness, right? And he never intended it to get to where it's got. And he started actually a while ago. This isn't starting now, it's already happened, where he's trying to get women to go more, like I said, dial it back before social media days and be more natural and genuine and authentic, and focus more on their inside than their outside, focusing more on their mindset, focusing more on their emotional health, focusing more on their spirituality, right? On the Lord, things like that. And one of the best ways he can do that is, because obviously we've noticed this already. We went to counseling. We've went to, women do meditations, things like that. Like, so we've affirmations. So we've became aware that there is a problem here. Like I said, this isn't new. But one of the best ways, actually the best way to achieve inner beauty, that's it, inner beauty besides just outer beauty, is to focus on the Lord, because the Lord will work and heal and improve and fix your inner beauty, right? That if you just focus on the Lord, reading your Bible, going to church, worshiping, things like that, the Lord will heal your inner beauty and make it bloom, right? That's what he does. And so he's aware of his power in that area. So therefore, that's why he's getting so many women to come back to him, right? And I've seen story after story after story, me included, where these women are like, I was addicted. I was, feeling depressed. I was feeling like this, and they went to the Lord called them back to him. They went back to him. They worked on their relationship with him. They got in tune with him. They went back to the basics. And now the Lord can raise those women up and send them out and use. So he's taking back social media. So 10 years ago, social media was used as a rat race to compete, women competing with other women, and women trying to focus on their outer beauty more so, right? But he's taking the reins back in his own hands and away from Satan. And obviously it's going to be a gradual process. It took a gradual process to get to the negative point. It's going to take a gradual process to get to the positive point. But he's basically in a way saying to women, like, you're better than this. I made you better than this. I gave you a brain. I gave you qualities. You're compassionate. You're graceful, you're strong, you're intelligent, things like this. It's like, I didn't make you to just think that you just need to take your shirt off or you just need to work in a bar, or, you know what I mean? I gave you so many qualities, and I'm not trying to demean or put down anyone that thinks like that or does that. I'm just literally putting out his word, okay? But he gave women so many more qualities than that for a reason, right? If you were just meant to have the best face and, real big fat full lips and real super long eyelashes and real big breasts or whatever, he would have done that. He knows what he's doing, right? So, and if that was all you were supposed to be good for, then why did he give you such a brain, and such a heart of gold and things like this? Like, to be nurturing and loving, why? Like, so I don't know. I'm just trying to say there's so much more qualities to women that the good Lord gave us that, due to the last 20 years of social media explosion, gradually over time, women have spent a lot of their time, energy, money, and attention focusing on their external beauty. And because of that, they've let the internal work go on the wayside, right? And because of that, they felt unfulfilled, and they still haven't been able to keep their partner's attention. And the reason why they aren't able to keep their partner's attention is because women have created this kind of like new idea for men to run with, where they think, well, this is how it is now. Cool. Now I can just play the field and run around. And God's like, no, you cannot. That's not how I wanted things to be, right? Now, if these things were happening individually, which they will continue to happen individually. This won't happen in every single scenario with every person. But because he's noticing it becoming an epidemic, right? And it has been, of this it's like everybody, this is just how it is now, right? And this is not how he created women and men and relationships and the world to function. So he's going to take women back to when things were more natural, like I was saying. And he's starting that by getting them in touch and in relationship with him. And then from there, he's able to, once they've worked on themselves internally enough, he's able to raise them up and use them to teach others. Like I made a word about that the other day as well. And women are basically, it's like, how do I explain it? It's like they've kind of allowed themselves to fall down to a certain point, but now God is getting them back up to where it was supposed to be and where they should have been and where it should be, right? And another reason why he's doing this is because of the next generation. A lot of these women, myself included, have children now, right? And they have daughters of their own, sons of their own. And God knows that he has to step in and correct things, because he does not like how the world is panning out, for one, and for two, he doesn't want women and men, fathers and mothers, raising their children in these ways, right? He doesn't want the sons to be raised up like this, to have this mentality that men have nowadays. And he doesn't want the little girls to raise up with the mentality that women have nowadays. Otherwise, the cycle will never end, right? So he's at this time kind of changing gears now, and you're going to see it. You're going to see it over time. You're going to see where the sexy, hot look isn't necessarily so in demand anymore. You're going to see where women are focusing more on raising their families, bettering themselves in healthy ways, where the model woman is now going to be someone who has a lot more to offer than just looks. You're going to see it. You're going to start to see transitions. Celebrities and stuff aren't going to be so relevant. The focus is going to go more and shift more towards internal health, right? And internal peace and internal projections, what you project internally. This is where the focus is going to slowly start to shift towards, and it's already started happening. I've seen it. And he's using women as kind of the poster child, like the starting off point. I don't know what you'd say, like the role model to set the trend, the new trend. And because he knows that if women can use their gifts that he gave them for what they should be using them for, and that if they can project a healthier outward image, not only will that benefit the next up and coming generation, like I mentioned, but it will also slowly over time get men to focus back on to where their focus should have been in the first place. And then as a result, we're going to see happy, healthier women internally, right, where they should be. Happy, healthier next generation coming up. Happier, healthier relationships, marriages, relationships between men and women. And a more positive, healthier world, right? And so as I started out the video saying,
God is aware of how evil things have gotten, right? And like the majority of men running around thinking they can just play the field and do what they want, when they want, how they want physically, that's evil. That comes from Satan. And the women trying to compete with each other and sticking it out in relationships with men who do this, that's also from Satan. That's also evil, right? And the men and the women having these newfound mentalities, raising the next generation this way, is just going to create more evil on the planet going into the next generation. And it'll just get worse and worse. And we're not immune to this. We know that this has been happening, right? And we've seen it. We've seen how things have changed in the last 20 years. And God is done with it. He's going to be shifting things and changing things. And like I said, he's starting with women. Again, not every single woman will have the gift of prophecy, but he did create women with gifts. And there's some that have the gift of prophecy, and he's already awoke them to it, and they're rising up as we speak, or have already been rose up. And then there's others that he hasn't yet done it to, but he will. They're going to come too. So don't be surprised if you find YouTube slowly start to become even more inundated with female prophetic voices, right? And not just YouTube, but lots of social media all over, because God is taking back the social media platforms, and he let Satan control it for evil for some time, and now he's going to take control and fix things how they really should be. So we're going to start to see that. We're also in time, because it's going to take time, see men start to shift their attention from the outside of a female to the inside of a female, and focus more on, because what God is telling me is he's saying with men, because women have been doing this, men now shop for women in a different way. They shop for them like you would at a grocery store, like, well, that's on sale, or that looks better quality, or, it's on a front, like a visual scale, like it's just on eyes only. Now, of course, men are visual. They've always looked at women that way, but he's telling me that before social media, back in the 80s and 90s, if a woman was beautiful, but she had a bad personality, he wouldn't necessarily take his time, right? But nowadays, men are more focused on the physicalness, so a woman can be beautiful and have a bad personality, and the man will still take her up on that. He will leave his wife of 10, 15 years, the mother of his children, for that woman who's beautiful with no personality or a bad personality, just simply because he's became so completely visually focused. Like it's went to the next level, right? So God does not want that. Like it's too much attention is being paid on the physicality by women and by men, right? So when God gets women to focus more on their internal, it's going to start to slowly over time create a shift, which will then force men to have to focus on the internal beauty of women like they used to back in the day, and have to quote unquote shop for women more on their inner beauty versus their outer beauty, which is how it should be in the first place, right? Because God is in the business of creating wives, mothers and wives, right? How can you be a proper wife or a proper mother if 90% of your focus, energy, and money is being paid into making yourself look good? Your husband's suffering, yourself is suffering, your relationship with the Lord is suffering, and your children, your relationship with the children, what you're modeling to them is suffering, right? So therefore you're not fulfilling your God-given duties as a wife and mother. When that's happening, you're only focusing on yourself. Then we get into idolization, where now we're idolizing ourselves, and that obviously, as we know, comes from Satan, right? So the remedy to that is to put God first, focus on God, put your attention and energy on God. He will then realign your priorities and your mindset to where over time you start to put yourself and your image on the back burner and put your relationship with your children, your relationship with the Father, and your relationship with your husband, and your relationship with yourself to the forefront. And so it's kind of just reprioritizing things in the female brain and in the male brain, right? If that makes any sense. So yeah, I'll probably make more words explaining this as we go. But like I said, he gave me this word, honestly, back in like the spring, summertime. And I never put it out at that time. But yeah, he's pushing it even more now. Like I see it. I can see how there's been a shift happening. When he said it to me back then, I started to see a shift, but I see it even more now. So again, he's saying it will take time, but we are going to slowly see this happen. So yeah, I hope this helps someone.